All right, Dan, next event on the track, the steeplechase. Henry Rono still holds the collegiate and meet records. Jeffrey Kerwa, who is in this field from Louisville, has the best time in the country amongst collegians, but this is a key race for that team, New Mexico, and this man, freshman Matthew Kosgei, who is the silver medalist from the U20 championships last year. A lot of weight on his shoulders, Laura.
Second fastest this season in this event, behind Geoffrey Kerwa of Louisville. Won the main section of the steeplechase at the Stanford Invitational, also winner of the Mountain West Conference steeplechase. There is Geoffrey Kerwa from the University of Louisville, second fastest in collegiate history. And in talking to his coach, Joe Franklin, he says this is shaping up to be one of the best men's steeplechases ever that we have seen at a national championship meet. And from BYU, the Olympian from last year in Paris, James Corrigan, entered the 2024 season with a personal best of 8:52.54. He then lowered that, Dwight, 7 times en route to qualifying for the Olympic Games.
So like the 1500, they cut the field in half from 24 to 12 on Wednesday. Those are the 12 on the track now. They will bypass the water jump and the first barrier in this first 200 meters. There are your list of competitors. And it is mandatory if New Mexico wants to be in the mix and win this national title with the 3 athletes they brought here, that Matthew Kosgei win this steeplechase. And there are a lot of people who are going to try and prevent him from doing that.
Got up front from the University of Kentucky, that is Collins Kiprop-Kegnock, the SEC steeplechase champion, as they navigate that first barrier. Also up there from Furman is Carson Williams, who clocked his personal best on Wednesday to qualify for this final.
It's one of the 2 semifinals was very quick, quicker than it needed to be, and a lot of season best and personal best were set in that heat on Wednesday.
As you're watching Matthew Kosgei alongside Geoffrey Kerwa and James Corrigan getting a great look at those top 3 right now, and Matthew Kosgei is a very efficient hurdler. As you see how he navigates, doesn't even put a foot on the barrier going over the water. Very strength-based type of steeple runner. So to his advantage to make this pace more honest. Geoffrey Kerwa he qualified for the NCAA cross-country championships last fall, but then didn't score the ACC indoor meet. Told Coach Joe Franklin, I cannot wait to get outdoors for the steeplechase. He's really just a different person when you put those barriers in front of him. So ran that fantastic performance earlier this season, that 8:13.89, and then went to doing some off events to sharpen himself at some different disciplines rather than pounding himself over the barriers and running a whole lot of steeplechase events. So that's why he's been able to be so fresh coming into championship season. Joash Rudo of Iowa State, this is what we saw him do in the prelim, Dwight. This is where he kind of broke the race open and forced the field to go quicker than what the rest wanted to do. Look at how Kerwa just, oh, and you can see a spill there. Often that's what you see here in the steeplechase, but how that's Christian Imroth from Eastern Kentucky. But Kerwa is so good in his efficiency and athleticism over the hurdles. Seeing how this pace is trying to position themselves to close in on that gap that Rudo has built.
Let's take a look at what happened on that last water jump attempt. You'll see that Kerwa and Kosgei both go over the barrier without touching it, but boy, Imroth really misjudged. He missed by a lot. It took a full tumble. That could have been a disaster, but he is up and running again, which is a good sign. Probably be a little sore tomorrow. But this is Joash Ruto, the freshman from Iowa State, pushing the pace.
Kerwa did a great job, though, of getting immediately right back in contact. What they anticipated is that if Ruto was up there up front. He'd probably take them through in right around 64-second 400s, and then things might settle in around 67, 68. But the command from his coach to Geoffrey Kerwa was to gain a meter on someone at every barrier over the second part of the race. So you've got to make sure that you're in contact. He has the ability to do that because of just how good and efficient he is over the barriers and over the water jump. Now, make sure you're keeping an eye, though, on Matthew Kosgei. He's currently behind James Corrigan right now, kind of settled into that position. Corrigan had such an interesting journey, Dwight, to qualify for the Olympic Games. He finished top 3 here at the Olympic trials. However, James Corrigan, who is in the blue top and, or excuse me, white top and blue bottoms, currently in about 5th position. You can see that BYU across his chest as he goes over that barrier. James Corrigan finished top 3 at the Olympic trials here at Hayward Field, but did not have the Olympic standard. So he had to find a race 6 days later in order to get the standard. Had to find an opportunity, a World Athletics certified opportunity, get a rabbit to set him up. And his coach, Ed Eyestone, said that James is just that talented. He was able to navigate it and then qualify for that Olympic team. He also said in that situation, naivety can be a little bit of a good thing for a young runner, because you just go into it with that enthusiasm and thinking nothing is going to stand in my way. So 24 was a huge learning experience for James Corrigan. This year he's really been a different, more confident runner, even doing some of his workouts with Kenneth Rooks. So getting the opportunity to train with a professional runner there on the BYU campus, and Kenneth Rooks, obviously an incredible steepler in his own right. So that has afforded James Corrigan the opportunity to see what he needs to do to go to even another level in this event.
Coming on 2.5 laps remaining, Josh Ruto, the freshman from Iowa State, continuing to push the pace. Geoffrey Kerwa right there the entire time. He covered the move. Kosgei is back middle of the pack, but behind James Corrigan. Collins Kipnok of Kentucky now into 4th. The real running is just about to start.
Carson Williams is doing a phenomenal job as well in his 3rd NCAA steeplechase appearance. Now, here's where Geoffrey Kerwa is going to start to push, because he really wants to find a good rhythm so that he can create that momentum over these barriers and not break any sort of stride.
They're on 8:20 pace. Geoffrey Kerwa, the collegiate leader, now trying to get some separation between himself and Carson Williams. Kosgei is starting to make his move to get closer to the front. There's James Corrigan of BYU on lane 2. You can see a little gap has developed, about 6-7 meters now. Kosgei isn't landing quite as close to the end of that water as he was earlier. He's well out of contact, about 20 meters back of the lead.
Look at how smooth Kerwa continues to navigate over the barriers. You can see James Corrigan is starting to close that gap, and Collins Kipnok going with him.
There's the bell. No response from Kosgei. Right now it's all Geoffrey Kerwa as James Corrigan now into 2nd place and attempting to close that gap.
That backstretch is a great opportunity for Corrigan to try to reel in Geoffrey Kerwa. You can see how quick he is on that turnover. He is really digging in. He's now within a stride. The water barrier is going to be critical here. It's a sharp turn. You've got to build the momentum driving in.
2 barriers remaining, 1 water jump, 1 barrier. There goes Corrigan into the lead. Kerwa may have made his move too quickly. Corrigan measured him properly. 1 barrier remaining. Does Kerwa have a gear left? Corrigan and Kerwa. Corrigan's going to hold him off. James Corrigan, the Olympian, wins the NCAA title in the steeplechase.
The reaction says it all for James Corrigan. 9th in this event last year. That motivated him so much. That was what spurred the motivation to qualify, earn his spot on the Olympic team last year. Also the sportsmanship, the great respect among these competitors. This is where experience was one of the greatest benefits for James Corrigan. The opportunity to have raced on this track multiple times, the international level of experience, having an opportunity with all the pressure on you, having to run a time to get into the Olympic Games, to get the qualifying standard, and to be able to rise to the level of competition. That last water barrier is what decided it. Here is where the entirety of the race, Kurwa had been so good. He has a little bit of a stutter step, and Corrigan just projects himself much more efficiently out of the water. Corrigan digging. Now things get really close following this last hurdle. You can see Kurwa tries to dig, but Corrigan uses such great athleticism and flexes just phenomenal finishing speed.
So it hasn't been that long since BYU's won this event. Kenneth Rooks did so 2 years ago, but that's the number 4 time in NCAA history. James Corrigan wins the title over Joffrey Kurwa, the collegiate leader, and Matthew Kosgei of New Mexico finishing way down in 6th place. Only 3 points for New Mexico. That'll take them out of the team title, but the champion is downstairs with John.
I have the champion. Only Henry Rono has ever run faster in this meet. So I don't know how you feel about having that little stat on your resume. It seems very nice. So you said you closed this race same time that you closed last year in the race and finished 9th. How is it you managed to be in position to be a champion this year as opposed to 9th?
Well, there was a lot of changes in fitness. I mean, we focused a lot on my aerobic base, making sure that I could hang at any pace. We also worked on my ability to run rounds back to back. We practiced that at my conference meet earlier this season, doubled back 24 hours apart, not even 48, and I was doing well, so I felt very confident coming in.
You said you were kind of thinking about last year when you were out there running, like how much time, how is your mind not focused entirely on the job at hand?
I think I was using the experiences I had last year and throughout my training to give me strength. It's hard to just think about one thing, and so instead of letting my mind wander and, letting the devil do his work, I had to fill it with something. And so whether it was the next hurdle or whether it was a positive experience from last year, I was trying to fill it.
Good to stay in the moment. Congratulations, James Corrigan, NCAA champion.
Thank you so much.
Dwight, another at Stone distance runner, is really good and got a natty. Not shocked.
Well, I can always say those BYU guys come down here to sea level, they're drowning in oxygen. But boy, that was a gear that I don't think everybody knew James Corrigan had. A great run for the young man from BYU.